New cars have quietly become luxury products. Most middle-class Americans can't actually afford them anymore. This shift happened slowly. Manufacturers killed the budget segment. Loans stretched to 7 years. Insurance doubled. The floor of the market moved up by $15,000 while your paycheck stayed flat. The question isn't who's buying cars, it's who can sustain the real cost without wrecking their financial future. If you want data-driven insights on making smarter financial moves, hit subscribe. We're breaking down the new affordability threshold and what it means for your budget. The entry-level car is dead. Manufacturers phased out sub-$25,000 models to chase higher margins on SUVs and trucks. In 2015, you could walk into a dealership and drive out in a basic sedan for $18,000. That same basic transportation in 2026 starts at $35,000 if you can even find it. The floor of the market has been raised by $15,000 to $20,000. This wasn't inflation. This was a calculated business decision that priced out working families. Compare what basic transportation meant a decade ago. A Honda Civic or Toyota Corolla with manual windows and cloth seats. Reliable, efficient, boring. But it got you to work and back for a price that made sense on a $40,000 household income. Now the cheapest new vehicle you can buy is loaded with tech you didn't ask for. Touch screens, lane keeping assist, blind spot monitoring. These aren't luxuries anymore, they're mandatory equipment that inflates the base price. The manufacturer calls it safety. The middle class calls it unaffordable, so buyers adapted. They use time to hide the fact they can't afford the price. Enter the 84-month loan. 7 years of payments on a depreciating asset. This is a mini mortgage, except your house might gain value. Your car loses 15% the moment you drive it off the lot. The math that dealers won't show you is brutal. On a $35,000 vehicle financed at 6% for 84 months, you'll pay over $8,000 in interest alone. That's $8,000 going to the bank instead of toward the car. You're paying for the privilege of pretending you can afford something you can't. But the real damage is the negative equity trap. Most buyers are underwater on their loan before they finish the first year. You owe more than the car is worth. If life happens and you need to sell, you're writing a check just to get out from under it. This is the mildly angry truth. The industry engineered this. They killed the budget segment. They pushed longer loans. They made the monthly payment look manageable while locking you into financial quicksand. The average new car payment in 2026 is $750 a month for 84 months. That's $63,000 over the life of the loan for a vehicle that started at $35,000. Let that sink in. You're paying nearly double the sticker price when you factor in interest and the opportunity cost of that money. If you invested that $750 a month instead, you'd have over $70,000 in 7 years, assuming modest returns. But the sticker price and the loan terms are only the beginning of the affordability crisis. The cost of keeping that car in your driveway is where the real financial damage happens. Insurance has become the second car payment. Modern vehicles are packed with sensors and cameras that make even minor repairs devastatingly expensive. That fender bender that used to cost $800 to fix, now it's $3,000 because you're not replacing a bumper, you're replacing a radar array and recalibrating the adaptive cruise control. Insurers know this. They've adjusted premiums accordingly. Location makes it worse. Urban drivers face double or triple the insurance costs compared to suburban counterparts. Higher theft rates, more accidents, tighter parking. If you live in a city and need a car, you're paying a premium for the privilege. Maintenance complexity has exploded. You can't take your 2026 vehicle to the shade tree mechanic anymore. Software updates require dealer access. Replacement parts are proprietary. A brake job that used to cost $200 now costs $600 because the electronic parking brake system needs diagnostic equipment most independent shops don't own. This is the hidden ownership tax, the cost that doesn't show up in the monthly payment but drains your budget every single month. The payment to income rule is simple. Your total transportation costs should not exceed 15% of take-home pay. Most Americans are now at 20 to 25%. That includes the loan, insurance, gas, and maintenance. When a quarter of your income disappears into a depreciating asset, you're not building wealth, you're treading water. So who can actually afford it? Dual income households with zero high interest debt who treat the car as their primary discretionary expense. People who've paid off student loans, carry no credit card balances, and have stable housing costs. That's a narrow slice of the middle class in 2026. But here's the hope angle. A well-maintained 3 to 5-year-old vehicle can give you reliable transportation at half the total cost of ownership. The depreciation curve is brutal in the first 3 years, which means someone else absorbed that hit. You get a nearly new car with modern safety features at a price that actually fits a middle-class budget. The personal budgeting framework is straightforward. Calculate your true car budget by subtracting housing, insurance, and retirement contributions first. What's left is your ceiling. If the math doesn't work for a new car, it's not failure, it's financial discipline. Where you live determines whether car ownership is a manageable expense or a financial sinkhole. The urban penalty is real and measurable. City dwellers face the triple hit of higher insurance, mandatory parking costs, and lower fuel efficiency due to stop-and-go traffic. That $300 monthly parking spot in a downtown garage, that's $3,600 annually before you turn the key. Compare the total annual cost for identical vehicles in different settings. A 2024 Honda CR-V in Philadelphia costs roughly $9,000 per year when you factor in insurance, parking, maintenance, and fuel. The same vehicle in rural Pennsylvania runs about $5,000 annually. That's a $4,000 geography tax for the exact same transportation. Rural and suburban buyers get breathing room. Lower insurance premiums, no parking fees. Better fuel economy on highway commutes. Access to independent mechanics who charge reasonable rates. The car-dependent infrastructure that makes rural life harder in other ways actually reduces the financial burden of vehicle ownership. But here's the counterpoint. Urban dwellers have alternatives: public transit, walkable neighborhoods, car-sharing services for occasional needs. The high cost of urban car ownership is partly offset by the option to not own at all. Rural residents don't have that choice. The car isn't optional, it's survival. The strategic question is whether your location demands a vehicle or just makes it convenient. If you're urban and can function without a car 80% of the time, the math favors occasional ride shares over ownership. If you're rural and the nearest grocery store is 12 miles away, you need reliable transportation regardless of cost. This is where the affordability threshold splits based on geography. Urban households need higher incomes to justify car ownership because the fixed costs are brutal. Rural households need cars at any income level, which means they're forced to make harder trade-offs elsewhere in the budget. The data shows a harsh reality. Car ownership has become a luxury tax in cities and a mandatory expense in rural areas. Neither situation is good for the middle class. The verdict is clear. New car ownership in 2026 requires either significant household income or serious financial trade-offs elsewhere. The measured advice: if the math doesn't work, an older vehicle isn't settling. It's the smarter move that protects your future. You're not losing status, you're keeping options open. Let me know in the comments. Are you holding on to your current car longer or shopping used? Subscribe for more breakdowns on middle-class economics.